God gave us everything we needed. You were never meant to struggle to live. You were never meant to pay to survive. You were never meant to run your body into the ground for bread. In the beginning, provision was in the soil. If you were traveling, all you had to do was walk up to a tree, pluck what was ripe, and keep moving. No transaction, no packaging, no permission, just divine design. You didn't need a meal plan. You didn't need insurance. You needed to trust the earth. And the earth responded. But now, we walk past trees that look alive, but have no fruit. And that's not random. That's by design. They're not just removing fruit. They're removing freedom. Because when you control food, you control energy. When you control energy, you control thought. And when you control thought, you control nations. What better way to rule people than to make them dependent on poisoned food, processed medicine, and spiritual starvation? See, Christ was hungry. He walked up to a fig tree expecting life. But it had none. He didn't just walk away, he cursed it. That moment was spiritual. That tree represented false systems, false promises. Things that looked alive, but produced nothing. Sound familiar? We've built cities on concrete, but they produce no healing. We've grown schools, but they teach no truth. We've built governments, but they offer no justice. Trees with no fruit, systems with no soul. In ancient times, if you sailed, you fished. If you walked inland, you picked fruit. You knew what herbs healed. You knew what leaves soothed. You knew how to live. Now, you need permission to fish, a license to gather rain, a label to know what's safe. And even then, they lie about that. This is warfare, not with guns, but with sugar. With seedless grapes, with lab-grown meat. With vitamins that deplete more than they restore. You can't talk about life expectancy without talking about who controls life access. You can't talk about health without asking who benefits from disease. Imagine a city where fruit grew on every corner. Apples from lampposts, oranges by the park, mangoes by the train stop. Imagine a child never knowing hunger because the street fed them. No lunch line, no food stamps, just abundance. That's how the earth was designed. To give, to feed, to support. But we've fenced off the garden and called it capitalism. We've replaced orchards with parking lots and called it development. We have food deserts in the land of milk and honey. And they call this progress? What we need is a return, not to primitive times, but to divine order. We don't need more apps. We need more apple trees. We don't need lab food. We need land rights. We don't need more medicine. We need more memory of who we are and how our ancestors lived. Before the system swallowed the soil, before health became a hustle, before food became a weapon, before truth became a threat. We are not broken. We are blocked. Cut off from what was already ours. So I ask you, why are there no fruit trees lining the streets? Why are children eating chemicals instead of creation? Why is healthcare bankrupting families? When healing used to grow wild, who made it this way? And why do we trust them? Because this system wasn't made to feed you. It was made to feed on you. The fig tree looked alive, but Christ exposed it. Let this be your lens. Look around. What looks alive in your world but bears no fruit? What systems, what leaders, what habits? Because we don't need more illusions. We need truth. We need restoration. We need the fruit to return. And it starts with awareness. Speak, plant, preserve, and unplug. Because God gave us everything we needed, and we're going to reclaim it. Fruit by fruit, truth by truth. They made you believe you were hungry for things you don't need. Made you crave food that has no life in it. Made you trust people who profit from your sickness. They didn't just take the fruit from the trees, they took the instinct from the people. You don't even recognize real food anymore. You don't even taste the difference between what heals you and what holds you hostage, because they trained your appetite. Not just in your mouth, but in your mind. Your body is starving, but your mind thinks it's full. Full of junk, full of salt, full of processed poison, full of lies. They turned nourishment into dependency, turned eating into addiction, turned health into a hustle, and then they made you blame yourself. Told you to eat less, move more, starve yourself to be accepted. When the food you're eating was never meant to serve you, it was made to sedate you. There's no fruit in it. There's no life in it. It looks good on a plate, but it's dead before it reaches your mouth. Just like the fig tree. Christ didn't curse that tree for no reason. He cursed it because it looked fruitful, but lied. And we've built an entire society on lies that look alive, processed faith, packaged truth, plastic purpose. It looks like success, but it's empty. It looks like abundance, but it's engineered lack. It looks like progress, but it's spiritual poverty. Your body knows something's wrong. Your spirit knows something's off. You feel it when you wake up tired after 8 hours of sleep. You feel it when your stomach is full, but your soul is hungry. You feel it when you're surrounded by noise, but starving for peace. Because this isn't just about food. This is about frequency. Your ancestors didn't just eat better. They lived in rhythm with the earth. They didn't count calories when they listened to their body. They didn't need a label. They knew the land. Now you need a chart to tell you if an apple is healthy, a barcode to tell you if a leaf is clean, a prescription to get what once grew in your grandmother's garden. And they call this advancement. They've replaced wisdom with warning labels, replaced prayer with pills, replaced healing with hustle. But some of us remember. Some of us are waking up. Some of us are walking away from the lie and returning to the root. We're planting again, not just in soil, but in self. We're growing discernment. We're watering awareness. We're harvesting truth. Because the fruit is coming back. We will walk through cities that grow again. We will feed people without fences. We will heal without hustling. We will restore what they tried to erase. God gave us everything we needed. And now we remember. Now we rise. Now we return. You were born free. But they taught you dependence, taught you that life comes from a store, not from the soil. That healing comes in a bottle, not from balance. That answers come from experts, not from your own divine instinct. But God never built a middleman into the design. Look around. The system works exactly how it was built to distract you, to delay you, to deplete you. They gave you a plate with no nutrients and a life with no direction. They gave you images of health, but fed you stress. They gave you loans for education, but no knowledge of self. And you're supposed to thrive in that. You're supposed to feel whole. When you're disconnected from your roots, there's no nourishment in this system. Only substitutes, only sedatives, only survival. And then they tell you it's your fault when you break down. But it's not weakness. It's misalignment. Your soul knows the truth. Your cells remember the garden. Your spirit still craves Eden. That's why the world feels heavy. You were made for more than this. You were made to walk barefoot through purpose. Made to drink from rivers not owned by corporations. Made to rest in rhythm, not grind for validation. But you forgot. We all did. Because the lie is loud, the ads are loud, the fear is loud, but the truth whispers. And it's been whispering to you every time you look in the mirror and feel like something is missing. You're not broken, you're buried, under distractions, under processed food and processed thought, under years of being told to shrink, when your spirit was trying to expand, but no more. This generation is remembering. We're pulling up the roots. We're cutting down the false fig trees. We're saying, no more fruitless living. No more blind obedience. No more silence when the soul is starving. Because the food is spiritual. The water is spiritual. The breath is spiritual. And we will not trade that for convenience. Let them laugh. Let them mock. Let them call it unrealistic. But watch when the soil starts to speak again. Watch when the land starts to respond to truth. Watch when the people return to source and remember their power. Because once you know what real provision is, you'll never be fooled by the artificial again. They told you to work harder. Said you were lazy if you didn't grind. Said you weren't enough unless you produced. But they never told you the system was never made for your rest. It was made for your exhaustion. The world doesn't reward wholeness. It rewards performance, even if it kills your peace. And so we stretch ourselves thin, fighting to survive in a system that was built to starve us. We celebrate 40-hour work weeks and call it purpose. But it's not purpose, it's permission. Permission to suffer in silence while pretending you're succeeding. Provision was never supposed to look like burnout. It was never supposed to sound like alarms and feel like anxiety. It was supposed to be rhythm. Grace, peace that surpasses understanding. Fruit that grows because the tree is rooted. Not rushed, but everything now is a mimic, a false fruit, a fast version of a slow truth. Fast food instead of slow nourishment. Fast money instead of generational wealth. Fast healing instead of deep transformation. And we wonder why we're empty, why the fridge is full, but our spirit is starving, why the followers are up, but the soul is low. Because this was never the real thing. It was a performance, a production, a prison with pretty packaging. They replaced your instincts with influencers, replaced your elders with experts, replaced your village with vanity. And now we scroll through meals we can't taste, watch lives we don't live, and worship the illusion of success, while dying in the details. But the prophets are waking up, the ones who remember what it felt like to eat from the earth, to walk in purpose without asking permission, to build without banks, to grow without algorithms. They're returning, quietly, humbly, powerfully, and they're planting seeds. Seeds of truth in a world addicted to lies. Seeds of legacy in a generation obsessed with likes. Seeds of freedom in soil that forgot what it means to be wild. We don't want more screens. We want soil. We want silence that heals. We want food that grows, not food that glows. And we're done asking for permission. We will grow again. We will heal again. We will walk the land barefoot and hear the voice of God in the wind again. Because provision is not just what you eat. It's what you believe. If you believe you're broken, you'll build systems that need fixing. But if you believe you were made whole, you'll start planting differently, living differently, loving differently. This isn't about going back. It's about remembering what was true before they reprogrammed you. So remember this. The ground still knows your name. The seeds still respond to your voice. The air still carries your prayer. You were born with access, born with dominion, born with provision. Everything else was a lie, sold in shiny clothes. Now it's time to return. Not to old ways, but to eternal ones. We're not going to wait for fruit to appear on their trees. We're planting our own. And this time, they won't be able to cut them down.